Somewhere in America right now, a man is walking into a pawn shop with his grandfather's old hunting rifle, and he is about to hand it over for $300. The pawnbroker is going to smile, write him a receipt, and put that rifle in the case before the door even closes. And 5 years from now, that same rifle is going to sell at a major auction house for $8,000. This video is the thing that man needed to watch yesterday. These are the 10 hunting rifles that are quietly, steadily, almost invisibly becoming worth a fortune. And if you own even one of them, the smartest decision you will ever make is to never let it go. Number 10, the Winchester Model 70, pre-1964, standard grade. Let's start here because this is the rifle that introduces most collectors to the concept of the pre-64 dividing line. And once you understand what that line means, you will never look at a bolt-action hunting rifle the same way again. Winchester introduced the Model 70 in 1936 as the evolution of everything they had learned building the Model 54. From the beginning, it used a controlled round feed action, inherited directly from the Mauser 98 design. In a controlled round feed system, the extractor claw grabs the cartridge the moment it leaves the magazine and holds it mechanically all the way into the chamber. The bolt physically controls the round through every stage of the feeding cycle. For a hunter facing a charging brown bear or a Cape buffalo with one chance to cycle his bolt, that mechanical control is not a preference. It is the difference between a second shot and a very bad day. For 28 years, Winchester built the Model 70 this way. Hand-fitted actions, carefully selected walnut, deep, rich bluing that you could see your reflection in. A trigger so clean that riflemen of that era described it as breaking like a glass rod. Then came 1964. Winchester, under new ownership and facing financial pressure, made a decision that the collector market has never forgiven. They switched to a push feed action, simplified the machining, cheapened the wood, and pressed the checkering instead of cutting it by hand. The post-64 Model 70 still functioned. It just was not the same rifle. It was not even close to the same rifle. And from that moment on, every pre-64 Model 70 in existence became something different, not just a used rifle, an artifact. Standard grade pre-64 Model 70s in honest hunting condition are selling today for $1,500 to $3,000. Super great examples in desirable calibers like .270 Winchester, .30-06, and .375 Holland & Holland are bringing $5,000 to $10,000 and higher. If you have one of these in your safe with the original stock and the original bluing untouched, do not do anything to it. Do not refinish it. Do not replace the stock. The patina is the value. Number 9, the Remington Model 721 and 722. Most people who own one of these rifles do not know what they have, and that gap between what they think it is worth and what it is actually worth is exactly where smart collectors are making money right now. Remington introduced the 721 and 722 in 1948 as their post-war center-fire bolt-action offering. These were serious hunting rifles, machined from quality steel, built to tolerances that reflected a manufacturing culture that still took pride in what it produced. The 721 handled the longer standard cartridges. The 722 handled shorter rounds. Together, they covered every hunting application an American sportsman of that era would have needed. In 1962, Remington replaced both models with the Model 700, which went on to become the best-selling bolt-action rifle in American history. And the moment the 700 appeared, the 721 and 722 became invisible. Overshadowed by their famous successor, they disappeared into hunting cabins, estate sales, and gun show tables where sellers routinely underestimate them. Here's what collectors understand that casual owners do not. The 721 and 722 represent Remington at a specific moment in its manufacturing history before the production economies that defined the 700 era. The actions are smoother. The steel is of a quality that later production did not consistently maintain. And because most people walked right past them for 60 years, clean original examples were genuinely underpriced until very recently. That is changing. 721 and 722 rifles in excellent original condition are now pulling $600 to $1,200 from informed buyers. The trajectory on these guns is pointing in one direction only. If you find one at a gun show with the seller asking $250, you are looking at an opportunity that will not exist much longer. Number 8. The Ruger No. 1, early production pre-1977. Bill Ruger was a man who believed that a falling block single-shot rifle was not a relic. He believed it was the purest expression of what a hunting rifle could be. And in 1967, he put his company's reputation behind that belief and introduced the Ruger No. 1. The No. 1 used a falling block action derived from the classic Farr Carson design, a mechanism where a lever drops a solid steel block straight down to open the breech, exposing the chamber for loading, then raises it back into lockup that is as strong as any bolt action ever built. No magazine, no feeding system, just a single cartridge, a single shot, and the understanding that you need to make it count. In the early years of production, Ruger built these rifles with a care and an attention to detail that reflected the founder's personal investment in the design. The wood-to-metal fit on the early guns is exceptional. The triggers are clean. The barrels, produced in collaboration with some of the finest barrel makers of the era, delivered accuracy that surprised shooters who expected less from a single shot. After 1977, production economies began to change the character of the rifle in ways that are subtle but real to anyone who has handled both an early and a late example side by side. Early production No. 1s in rare chamberings, the 220 Swift, the 253,000, the 475 No. 2, are now genuine collector pieces. A standard early No. 1 was a $300 rifle 10 years ago. Today, clean examples and desirable calibers are bringing $800 to $2,000. The rarest chamberings are pushing higher. The collector community around the No. 1 is organized, knowledgeable, and buying. Get ahead of them or get left behind. Number 7. The Winchester Model 54. Here is the rifle that almost nobody talks about and almost everybody should. The Winchester Model 54 was the bolt action that came before the Model 70, and in the collector market, that historical position is starting to mean serious money. Winchester introduced the Model 54 in 1925 as their first commercially successful center-fire bolt-action rifle. It used a controlled round feed action, a one-piece firing pin, and a receiver design that set the architectural foundation for everything Winchester would build into the Model 70 11 years later. In many ways, understanding the 54 is understanding where the Model 70 came from, and that lineage carries weight. The 54 was produced from 1925 to 1936. Total production across all calibers and configurations was approximately 50,000 rifles. That number sounds reasonable until you factor in how many have been lost, sporterized, restocked, or damaged beyond collector grade in the 90 years since. Clean, original Model 54s with the original stock and matching components are genuinely uncommon. The calibers tell the history of American hunting in the 1920s and 30s. The 30-06, the 270 Winchester, which was introduced specifically for this rifle, the 7x57 Mauser, the 253,000 Savage. Each cartridge is a chapter in the story of American bolt-action development, and the 54 is the rifle that ran them all before the Model 70 arrived to take the credit. Standard 54s in solid original condition are selling today for $800 to $2,000. Rare calibers and carbine variants go higher, and the number of collectors who specialize in pre-Model 70 Winchester bolt actions is growing every year. This is a market that is still in its early stages of appreciation. The people who buy now are going to look very smart in a decade. Number 6, the Savage Model 99. There is a moment in American firearms history when a lever-action rifle looked the bolt-action revolution square in the face and said, "I can do everything you can do." That moment was 1899, and the rifle was the Savage Model 99. Every other lever-action rifle of that era used a tube magazine that ran under the barrel. Tube magazines have one critical limitation. They cannot safely feed pointed Spitzer bullets because the point of one cartridge rests against the primer of the cartridge ahead of it, and under the force of recoil, that arrangement can cause a chain detonation. It is as bad as it sounds. So every lever action using a tube magazine was limited to flat nose or round nose bullets, and flat nose bullets lose velocity and accuracy at longer ranges in ways that pointed bullets do not. Arthur Savage's solution was a rotary magazine, a spool that held cartridges with their points facing inward, away from any primer. Pointed bullets, Spitzer ballistics, lever action speed. In a single mechanical decision, Savage had given the lever action everything it needed to compete with bolt guns at hunting ranges. The Model 99 was built in an extraordinary range of calibers across its production life from 1920 through 1998. And within that range, the early calibers are the ones that collectors chase. The .303 Savage, the .250 3000, the .300 Savage. These are cartridges that were developed specifically for this rifle, and finding a clean Model 99 in original chambering with the original finish is getting harder every year. Pre-1960, examples with solid wood and honest original bluing are selling today for $600 to $1,500. Deluxe grades with factory checkering and pistol grip stocks bring considerably more. The 99 is a rifle that every collector of American hunting arms needs to understand, and most of them are just arriving at that conclusion now. Number 5, the Weatherby Mark V, early Southgate, California production. Roy Weatherby was not a modest man. He believed he had developed the fastest sporting cartridges on earth, and he was right. He believed his rifles should be built to match that ambition. And the ones built in Southgate, California, in the early years of Mark V production, proved that he was right about that too. Weatherby introduced the Mark V action in 1958, and for the first 25 years of its existence, it was built in California by American craftsmen who understood exactly what Roy Weatherby expected from them. The action itself is a marvel of over-engineering in the best possible sense. 9 locking lugs arranged in 3 rows of 3, a bolt that locks up with a rigidity that makes most other bolt actions feel agricultural by comparison. A counterboard muzzle crown that protects the rifling from the damage that, at Weatherby velocities, would ruin accuracy faster than almost anything else. The Claro walnut stocks on the California guns have a figure and a richness that the later Japanese-produced rifles, which began in 1983, never consistently matched. The Monte Carlo cheek piece, the white line spacers, the rosewood foreign tip and grip cap, these details were executed on the California guns with a precision that reflected a craftsman's investment in his work rather than a production line's obligation to a schedule. Roy Weatherby moved production to Japan in 1983 for economic reasons that made complete business sense. The Japanese rifles are well built, but they are not Southgate guns. A California production Mark V in a Magnum Weatherby caliber, the .340, the .378, the .460, with the original stock in unaltered condition, is now a $2,000 to $5,000 rifle. Prime examples in the largest calibers are pushing higher. And every year, more California guns get sporterized, restocked, and lost to the collector market forever. The supply of authentic Southgate Mark Vs is shrinking faster than most people realize. Number 4, the Winchester Model 88. Here's a rifle that confuses people when they first encounter it, and that confusion has kept prices artificially low for decades. The Model 88 looks like a lever action, it operates like a lever action, but mechanically it thinks it is a bolt gun. And that combination makes it one of the most innovative American hunting rifles ever built and one of the most overlooked. Winchester introduced the Model 88 in 1955 with a design that solved the lever action's most persistent problem, the rotating bolt head. When the Model 88's lever is cycled, it does not just open and close a toggle link, it rotates a bolt head that locks directly into the barrel extension, creating a lockup geometry that is functionally identical to a bolt action. That means the Model 88 could safely chamber pointed Spitzer bullets in a detachable box magazine. No tube magazine. No flat nose compromise, full bolt action ballistics in a lever action package. Winchester chambered it in cartridges that reflected this capability. The 243 Winchester, the 308 Winchester, the 280 Remington. The 308 was a NATO standard cartridge developing pressures that no traditional lever-action toggle link could have handled. The Model 88 handled it with complete mechanical confidence. And then 1964 arrived and changed everything because the same cost-cutting that wrecked the Model 70 also wrecked the Model 88. Post-1964 examples used cheaper steel, simplified machining, and inferior wood. The line between pre- and post-1964 on the Model 88 is just as stark as it is on the bolt guns, and far fewer collectors know about it. Pre-1964 Model 88s in 243 and 280 are selling today for $1,200 to $2,500. The market on these rifles is still in early stages. A decade from now, the people holding original pre-1964 examples are going to look like geniuses. Number 3, the Griffin & Howe Custom Springfield. We need to talk about the moment a gunsmith's name becomes worth more than the manufacturer's name on the receiver, because that is exactly what happened with Griffin & Howe and the rifles they built on military Springfield actions in the 1920s and 30s are now pulling prices that would make the original owners blink. Seymour Griffin and James Howe founded their New York shop in 1923 with a single and very specific ambition. They were going to take the United States military's Model 1903 Springfield action, which was widely considered one of the strongest and most accurate bolt-action receivers ever produced, and transform it into the finest custom sporting rifle available to the American hunter. What they delivered was extraordinary. The Springfields that came out of Griffin & Howe's shop were restocked in the finest French or Circassian walnut, with hand-cut checkering executed at a standard that matched the best English makers. The actions were trued, polished, and fitted with custom triggers. The barrels were selected for accuracy and profiled to the customer's specification. Each rifle was built for a specific person to a specific purpose and finished to a standard that reflected the reputation of a shop that understood its customers expected nothing less than perfection. The clients were not ordinary sportsmen. They were industrialists, publishers, and serious hunters who had been to Africa and Alaska and understood exactly what a rifle needed to do. These were men who could afford anything and chose Griffin & Howe. That clientele history is embedded in every rifle the shop produced. A documented Griffin & Howe custom Springfield in original unaltered condition is now a $4,000 to $12,000 rifle depending on the quality of the wood, the complexity of the work, and any provenance that can be established. Rifles with known ownership histories from notable clients are pushing higher. The institutional collectors and major auction houses have discovered these guns. The window where you could buy one at a gun show for $400 has closed. Number 2, the Rigby Rising Bite Double Rifle. Everything changes when we get here, because we have left the world of American manufacturing and entered something else entirely. We have entered the world of the London gun trade at its absolute apex, and the Rigby Rising Bite Double Rifle is what that world produced when it was operating at the highest level human hands have ever applied to the craft of building a firearm. John Rigby and Company was founded in Dublin in 1735 and moved to London in 1865. For the next 80 years, until the Second World War effectively ended the golden age of the London trade, Rigby built dangerous game rifles for the men who were going to the most remote and lethal corners of the earth, professional hunters in British East Africa, members of the Indian Civil Service, military officers with private incomes and a taste for adventure in places where the game could kill you back. The rising bite action, which Rigby refined and made their own, uses a third fastener, a bite, that rises from the top rib and engages a slot in the top extension when the barrels are closed. On a standard double rifle, 2 Purdy underbolts secure the barrels. The rising bite adds a third mechanical lock at the top, creating a barrel-to-action joint of exceptional rigidity that handles the thrust of cartridges like the .453 1/4, the 500 Nitro Express, and the legendary 416 Rigby without loosening over time in the way that lesser doubles inevitably do. These rifles were regulated by hand. Regulating a double rifle means adjusting the barrel convergence so that both barrels shoot to the same point of impact at a specified distance. On a dangerous game double in 416 Rigby, that regulation distance might be 50 yards, the range at which a professional hunter needs both barrels shooting together when a lion or an elephant is coming at a speed that leaves no time for adjustment. Getting that regulation right requires skills that took years to develop and that very few people in the world still possess. Pre-war Rigby Rising Bite doubles in 375 Holland, and Holland or 416 Rigby are now $8,000 to $25,000 rifles for honest field examples. Documented professional hunter guns with African safari history push considerably higher. And the number of craftsmen alive today who can regulate a new dangerous game double to the standard of a pre-war Rigby is so small that these rifles have become effectively irreplaceable. Not just rare, irreplaceable. If you have a Rigby double rifle in your family, regardless of its condition, do not sell it to anyone until you have spoken to a specialist at a major auction house. You are almost certainly holding something worth far more than you know. Number 1. The Winchester Model 1886, early production. Here is where we have been building to. And if you have stayed with me through every rifle on this list, what you are about to hear is going to make complete sense because everything we have discussed, the manufacturing excellence, the historical significance, the irreplaceable craftsmanship, all of it converges in this one rifle. In 1883, Winchester had a problem that their own engineers had concluded was structurally unsolvable. Their lever-action rifles, the 1873 and the 1876, used toggle link actions that worked brilliantly with pistol-caliber cartridges. But the American hunting market was demanding rifles that could chamber the great rifle cartridges of the era. The 4570 Government, the 4590, the 40082. These cartridges generated bolt thrust that a toggle link action would simply not survive. Winchester's engineers had studied the problem and reached an uncomfortable conclusion. A lever action strong enough for these cartridges could not be built with the smooth, fast cycling that made lever actions desirable. The two requirements were mechanically incompatible. Then a 26-year-old part-time inventor from Ogden, Utah walked into Winchester's offices with a solution that made Winchester's own engineers stop and stare. John Browning's Model 1886 used twin vertical locking bars that moved straight up into recesses machined into the receiver walls when the action closed. The bolt thrust was transferred directly into the strongest section of the receiver, not through a toggle link that was never designed to handle it. The action was simultaneously stronger than anything Winchester had built, smoother to cycle than most competitors' designs, and so elegantly conceived that experienced gunsmiths who examined it described the experience with something close to reverence. Winchester began production immediately. The rifles that came off the line in those first years, the earliest serial numbers from 1886 through the early 1890s, represent Browning's design at its most historically pure. The receiver dimensions, the specific case-hardened and blued finish combination, the crescent butt plate geometry, these details on the earliest guns are the details that collectors and historians trace back to Browning's original drawings. Theodore Roosevelt carried a Model 1886 in 4570 on his African expeditions. He understood rifles, owned dozens of the finest examples available, and chose this one for the work that mattered most. That endorsement is not a marketing story. It is a historical fact documented in Roosevelt's own journals. The auction records for the Model 1886 tell you everything you need to know about where this rifle sits in the collector hierarchy. Standard early production examples in solid original condition are selling today for $3,500 to $8,000. Deluxe grade examples with factory engraving are bringing $15,000 to $30,000. And at the absolute summit, a gold inlaid Model 1886 sold at auction for $1,165,000. A Model 1886 Express rifle bearing serial number 1 the very first one ever produced, presented by Medal of Honor recipient Lieutenant George Albee to fellow Medal of Honor recipient Captain Henry Lawton, who would go on to capture Geronimo just months later, sold at Rock Island Auction Company for $1,178,750. At the time, that was the world record for the most expensive single rifle ever sold at public auction. Serial number 1, 2 Medal of Honor recipients, the man who captured Geronimo, and John Browning's greatest lever-action design. There will never be another one. If you have an early model 1886 in your family with any documentation, any provenance, any family history, connecting it to a known person or event, do not touch it until you have spoken to a specialist at a major auction house. You may be holding something that belongs in a museum, and the museum may be willing to pay accordingly. That is the list. 10 hunting rifles, 10 names that span 140 years of American and British firearms history. Let me bring it home quickly. Number 10, the Winchester Model 70 pre-1964. Number 9, the Remington 721 and 722. Number 8, the Ruger Number 1 early production. Number 7, the Winchester Model 54. Number 6, the Savage Model 99. Number 5, the Weatherby Mark V Southgate production. Number 4, the Winchester Model 88 pre-1964. Number 3, the Griffin and Howe Custom Springfield. Number 2, the Rigby Rising Bite Double Rifle. And number 1, the Winchester Model 1886 early production. Every rifle on this list shares the same truth. It was built during a specific window in manufacturing history that is permanently closed. The hands that fitted those actions, the craftsmen who selected that walnut, the engineers who solved those mechanical problems are gone. What remains is finite. The supply can only shrink. And the collectors who understand that are the ones who are holding while everyone else is selling. Here is exactly what I want you to do right now. Go to your gun safe, your gun cabinet, the back of the closet where your grandfather's rifle has been sitting since 1987. Look at the markings. Check the model. Compare what you have to this list. Because the most valuable hunting rifle in America might not be at an auction house right now. It might be sitting in your home, and you might have no idea what you are actually holding. If this list helped you understand what you own, hit the like button and subscribe. Every week, I go this deep on the rifles, shotguns, and handguns that are quietly making collectors very wealthy. And leave me a comment with the oldest hunting rifle in your family. Tell me the model, the caliber, and where it came from. Because I read every single one, and your story might be the one I feature next week. Stay smart, stay patient, and whatever you do, do not sell before you watch the next one.